I'm Harold Crooks, and I directed The Price We Pay, and I'm extremely pleased that Claude Chamberlain and your festival has invited me here for the second time in 3 years. I was here with Surviving Progress, which I co-directed with Mathieu, and so I'm back, and I'm happy to be back. Well, the film really began for me at another film festival in Montreal. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention it or not, but REDM, and I was on a panel and the panel was about the making of Surviving Progress. And at the end of the panel, this woman came up to me and handed me her business card, and she said, "I would like to talk to you." And it was Nathalie Barton, the Montreal producer. And a few weeks later, she phoned and said, you know, I have this film about taxation, and I'm wondering if you would like to hear more about it. And I thought, oh my God, taxation. I mean, you know, the cliche about death and taxation, you would really, there are two subjects you would prefer not to think about. I mean, I can hardly do my taxes, much less the idea of spending years making a film. But when I realized that taxation is like a lens, like a camera lens, to understand power and who has power in society, who doesn't have power in society, and whether the regular person has a chance of getting ahead in life, then I was hooked. And so I said yes to Nathalie, and then it began. The film for Nathalie began when a Quebec fiscaliste, Brigitte Alpin, came to her. Brigitte had written, it's okay? Oh, okay. Brigitte had written several books about the fiscal crisis, and she was concerned that the books weren't having a large enough impact. So she went up to, I think she went up to see someone at the ONF about the possibility of making a documentary, and they sent her to Nathalie, and Nathalie found me. So Brigitte's books were, which were the inspiration for the film, were really about the viability or sustainability of public finances in the Western world. And Surviving Progress was about the viability or sustainability of civilization itself from an ecological and, you know, whether there were ecological and financial traps that threaten the whole project of human civilization. So between Brigitte's books on public finance and the last film on the sustainability of civilization, we met together on the common terrain of the sustainability or viability of democracy in the face of the offshoring of the world's wealth beyond the reach of democratic control, beyond the beyond the reach of tax authorities, and the threat that that represents to the main social achievements, really, the social innovations of the 20th century, the middle class and the welfare state. So all that was put into jeopardy by the movement of the world's wealth offshore into tax havens. So that was the beginning, that concept was the beginning of the film. And as you know, I went to Paris with Brigitte. We interviewed the famous, well, he wasn't famous then, Thomas Piketty. We interviewed him, and that was long before he became, between the time we interviewed him and the time the film came out, he had become the most famous economist in the world, with his book Capital in the 21st Century, which was about basically how the capitalist system produces inequality as one of its major products, is inequality. And that's the ultimate raison d'etre of our film, the question of growing social and income inequality throughout the Western world. So that was the beginning, the first steps, the baby steps. It was a challenge. The amount of obsessive concentration on the subject matter, and also because you want the film to have a shelf life, to be of lasting use, You don't want it to make it just about the news, and the subject was always in the news while we were making the film. So I had to identify the issues that I thought would be more slowly moving and should be the focus of our attention. But it was a challenge, no question about it. But also, besides being a pedagogical tool, I also wanted it to be a cinematic experience. And so I brought with me into this project the editor from Surviving Progress, this fantastic, brilliant, super zen Montreal editor, Louis Martin Paradis. And I would not be here speaking to you today without the contribution of many talented Quebec filmmakers. I think of the people, the team. Our team was of really virtuoso filmmaking talents, but and I was sort of like the conductor of an orchestra of virtuosos, but the orchestra could never have fully expressed itself without Louis Martin's hand at the Avid.